Hi all, welcome back to the final whistle then for another stream on the channel. And we've got an interesting topic to discuss tonight. Are Leicester City looking to part ways with current manager Ruud van Nistelrooy then? According to reports, L'Eqipe in France, they're reporting that Leicester City are eyeing up former Hull boss Liam Rosenior. So we're going to chat with Ant from to Hull and back. He's going to give me the lowdown on Liam Rosenior. We'll do a little comparison with obviously Ruud van Nistelrooy as well. Is it lazy journalism? Is there any truth in it? Obviously, Rosenior at the minute is at Strasbourg in France, so it's going to be an interesting chat regarding this one. If Leicester are to part ways with Ruud van Nistelrooy, then who could we bring in potentially? Will it be Rosenior? Will it be Sean Dyche? Who knows? Could it be Danny Rowe? I don't know. But yeah, guys, as always, get involved. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't subscribed already. Please get down and do so. That help me out massively. Let's see who's in the chat. Hope this is true. Plays the Enzo way. Obviously, I hadn't seen the likes of Enzo Maresca's football last season in the Championship when Leicester were there. Will there be some sort of links in that style of football? Well, we'll see what Ant has to say regarding Liam Rosenior's 18 months at Hull City. Evening, not sure about this one. Another gamble with high stakes. Yeah, I think it's more have Leicester City actually got a project and an actual plan is the main thing. Kyle, how are you? Greetings, Terry. Greetings, Tony. How are you, mate? Are you well? Michael, I don't want to be, well, that's no good. I have doubts on Rosenior given the players he had in that whole side. I would rather that Danny Rowe from Sheffield Wednesday. Hopefully, he's due to sack on Wednesday night. Well, we're playing Manchester City next. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Michael, we've had bloody, Chris Hughton and that in the jobs. Chris Powell's managed at clubs and stuff like that. But, yeah, Chris Hughton's done all right at Brighton, I believe. I think he had promotion, but I don't know. Both scored in under-21s. Rosenior managed to attract Philogene, Delap at Hull. Yeah, interesting project. But let's get Ant in to Hull and back. Ant, how are you?
I'm good, Jack. How are you, mate?
I'm all right. It's been a while. Maybe we'll be shaking hands again at the end of the season.
Yeah.
We look to be beckoning for the Championship. But what have you made of Leicester, firstly, and this season? I mean, what are the chances of Leicester really staying up now with 9 games to go?
I don't give you much hope, to be fair. And I'm not saying that as a neutral fan and as a friend. I'm saying that as I'm looking at the Premier League and the gulf in class now between the Premier League and the Championship, and it's just getting so much more difficult to stay in the league. Even chucking money at it like Ipswich have done obviously doesn't work either. The 3 promoted sides got relegated last season. It's looking like the 3 promoted sides are getting relegated this season. It's just becoming an insurmountable task in it. I think that disparity between the leagues is just getting too big, man, and it's showing. I mean, you guys have had a tough sort of transfer window, tough period under obviously going from Enzo to Steve Cooper and then to Van Nistelrooy. You know, you've not been able to attract that proper caliber of Premier League manager, maybe because of what's been going on off the pitch and potential points deductions and transfer embargoes and everything like that. Obviously, doesn't help, but yeah, I think we'll be seeing you in the Championship next season if we stay up, obviously, as well. We're not for ourselves, so. Obviously,
you lot are battling it down there with beloved bloody hatred of Derby County, aren't you? The other East Midlands side who shouldn't really get a mention, but they have anyway. But yeah, obviously the Championship seems to be very hot at the heels again regarding the top 6. You looked at the last season when Leicester went up, you had Ipswich, you had Leeds, you had Southampton, all finished on quite a lot of points last season. I think that's the closest the Championship's ever been.
Yeah, it was a crazy league last year, and I think the quality has dropped significantly. This season, it's just been across from top to bottom, really, barring Leeds, Sheffield United, and Burnley. Outside of those three, there isn't really any quality in the league. The fact that there's still so many teams that are involved in the relegation fight just shows that, and still so many teams involved in the playoff chase as well. There's only really Sunderland that are kind of just in their own place where they're not going to get automatic, but they're not going to knock out the top six, so they're kind of just safe. But everybody else has got something to fight for, and it's been a very bizarre season. A lot of teams in places you probably maybe didn't expect them to be in, like you may be looking at the likes of ourselves. I mean, I didn't expect us to be in the kind of position we were in. And then you're looking at, Coventry started the season really poorly, and now they've somehow fired their way into playoff contention. Blackburn, poor season last year, were playoff contention this year, and now I fell off a cliff. It's just such a bizarre league, man. So surely you must be looking forward to coming back into it. Take that as your silver lining.
I'd say there's some better away days. No VAR, no bloody corrupt referees, let's be honest. But I have watched the Championship this season. Obviously, it looked like Leeds were away with it quite quick, convincingly, but then all of a sudden it's gone close again at the top. But Leicester, I'd have took 17th this season, but then it's been very swap and change of managers. Just nothing really we've done on and off the pitch. The club's a mess. We need a massive reset. And, will that happen next season? If we do come down, obviously, the EFL are looking to throw the bucketers. Obviously, it looks like we could be getting a new manager. Do we part ways with Ruud van Nistelrooy at the end of the season? Is another question to a thing with Leicester City. But it's just the adventure of Leicester this season. Everything's just gone downhill from start to finish. And we don't look like scoring goals anytime soon or even winning a game.
No, I mean, take solace that at least you're not Southampton. Would maybe be the advice. I can't. I mean, it's a poor season, but Ipswich are in the same boat. Southampton are in the same boat. Wolves have kind of, just because they've got, a little dabble of quality in the likes of Cunha and players like that, they've managed to pull themselves a little bit out of it, but they're still well below everybody else in the league. So, but the fact that you guys, like the bottom three as it is, are just, so poor this season has meant that everybody else can be okay, like Wolves, just to stay up. But this is just reflective now, and I think every single season you're going to see similar. It's so much more difficult now, especially with, like we say, and you guys will know more than most at the minute, the tough sanctions around FFP and trying to find a way to be sustainable and to build a club, because you cannot really build a successful club and show any form of ambition without spending a bit of money. So you have to accept that you are going to have a loss every now and again in order to get to a place where you want to be. Look at Brighton, look at Bournemouth. They took risks, but it paid off because the recruitment was right, the management was right, the philosophy in the club was all correct. Whereas, when Leicester have done it, obviously in the past, it's been you're still reeling from past mistakes, and it's hard to move on and to transition from that poor era into a new one, because you're still being reprimanded for what's been happening in the past. And realistically, probably the current manager or some of the current players haven't even had anything to do with it. So it must be frustrating to watch as a fan, because, like you say, you're just wanting to get to a position where you can spend but be competitive, but your hands are you're figuratively tied. So maybe going down might be a bit of a beneficiary, might stay down 2 or 3 years, but it might give you a bit of stability just to sort of press that reset button. I mean, sometimes people say relegation can be good for teams, and I do agree with that in some instances. I mean, you never want to see your club get relegated, but if it sort of encourages a system reset, it can be so much more beneficial in the long term. I mean, look at Birmingham now in League One. They were fighting relegation every year in the Championship, and every single year was the same. So they've gone down to League One now, where there's like no financial restrictions whatsoever. Built a League One super team, and they're probably going to be competitive in the Championship again next season. So sometimes it can work, but like you say, it's just a tough watch for you at the minute. You'd like to maybe just see your players given a bit more, or the manager tinkering with the system just to try and find a way to score goals or to be a bit harder to beat. But if you're watching the same stuff week in, week out, then sometimes it's the definition of insanity, isn't it? Doing the same thing here time and time again and expecting different results.
Yeah, I think it's got to the more of the point of more than a bloody tough watch watching bloody Leicester this season. The amount of money that's been spent to watch a lot of bloody crap that's been performed in front of our eyes, and players who don't care. a board that just doesn't seem to know what it's doing at this managing time. You know, you've had different managers, Cooper, Ruud. You know, Ruud. He's not changed anything. He's not improved it, has he? You know, Kadan is Leicester's worst manager. Let's be honest. You know, what we on now, 17 points, and he's only gained 7 points on what Steve Cooper had. But these players ain't good enough. Let's be honest. You know, what we got in there at the minute, we've got a defence that can't defend. You've got Hermanson, who's going to be gone in the summer. You've got the midfield, bit hit and miss. You know, you've got the front, Jamie Vardy, who. He's not really getting the service, is he? You know, obviously he's now 38. We've never found anyone better than Jamie Vardy to come in. Dak has never lived up to it. You look at Tom Cannon, left for Sheffield United after getting recalled from his loan at Stoke, and he's not really hit it off at Sheffield United. Maybe that's a bit of a hindsight thing that he probably wouldn't have been good enough for the Premier League, but the thing is, with Leicester, the squad's just not got enough quality in, has it? You know, Ruud wants to set them up defensively and they can't defend. And if you can't defend, what do? You concede all these goals and we've got nothing in attack to go forward with. And the barrel of the Championship is staring us straight in the face. You know, I think our goal difference is plus 40 odd and it's just awful, isn't it? You know, and let this 3 teams now at the bottom of the league, Kukudan is the worst ever 3 to go down.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, again, like we said at the beginning of the show, that just because the gulf in the leagues is getting so much bigger, that's just sort of a consequence of that. But like you say, when it comes to your transfers and stuff, I said to you at the start of the season, I think Leicester would struggle because there isn't enough goals in the team. So when you're fighting for survival in these leagues, you've got to specialise in one thing. So if you've not got good goal scorers, then make yourself solid and hard to beat. Focus on defence. Make sure that you don't concede any sloppy goals. Just try and get it to like 0 or 1. And then even if you do concede 1 goal, your chances of nicking a set piece or something like that can be quite high and you get points that way. Yeah. But if you're going to concede as many goals as you have, then you need to be free scoring. And there doesn't seem to be a balance in Leicester's team. I don't quite know what philosophy Van Nistelrooy wants to go with. You look at Leicester and they seem to concede so many shots, but they don't actually create that many either. I mean, I'm speaking on the rare instance that I watch you guys on telly. You obviously watch every week, but from what I see, you don't create anywhere near enough to justify how fragile you look at the back. So it's how does he find that balance, and does he have to change a few players around? Is there maybe a bit of an issue in terms of your playing staff where maybe some players are like, well, you can't drop me because I'm, you know, one of your highest earners and I'm going to play. Yeah, so maybe his hands are tied in that respect, and you've got maybe a similar to what Man United are going through, where you've got a bit of a prima donna status with some of your players, and they think they're better than what they are, and they just coast through games, and he can't really change the system because the players have got more power than he has. So it is like you say. As a fan of the club, I can't imagine how tough it is to watch. I mean, I've seen us do similar runs. We had it under Grant McCann in the past. It's when you watch your team lose week in, week out, and you know exactly what you're going to go watch and see, and there's that air of inevitability into the games. You just don't even enjoy your football days anymore. I mean, the football clubs are meant to be your escape from the stresses of life. And then if you have a stressful life and then watching your football team churn out those performances week in, week out, it just adds to it. It's meant to take it away. So, yeah, no, I can't imagine how tough it is. But like you say, maybe that relegation's the reset you need just to sort of get some sort of stability back into the team. A manager that will stay as well, not like Maresca, who just jumped at the first time of asking.
Yeah, maybe we need some bloody people leaving on the board as well. Leicester need a massive shake up top to bottom. They're all deluded. Yeah, Ruud speaks bloody, you know, the way it is. You know, sometimes he always bangs on. This side's got fight in it, and I've seen more fight in a bloody boxing match than they have with Leicester City. These are prima donnas that are on Strictly Come Dancing every week. It just looks like that, or they're on Dancing on Ice. The amount of times they fall on their arse rather than scoring goals. So, for me, it's just awful. You know, we've got Vestergaard bringing his dog to training. You might as well bloody do puppy training at bloody Leicester City these days, and it turns into pets at home and whatever else, but. It's the gift that keeps on giving, you know, and we're just gifting these teams points and everything like that. We don't look in any game. As soon as we concede one, the team just falls apart, you know. So let's move on to the Leicester line up Liam Rosenior. Obviously, we'll chat about him in a minute. What do you think of Russell Martin and Gary O'Neill to take over this football club? I mean, I'd say Gary O'Neill's better than Russell Martin, if I'm honest. He did all right at Bournemouth. He did okay at Wolves to an extent, and then obviously got the sack because he wasn't good enough. Russell Martin, he I don't know. What was your initial thoughts on Russell Martin? And obviously, you watched him at Swansea and then Southampton. What was your initial thoughts on Russell Martin? Do you think he'd be good enough to replace Van Nistelrooy if Leicester do decide to part with Ruud?
I think he's shown with Southampton that he is capable of getting a team out of the division. It's just he's also shown that he's not capable of keeping a team in the Premier League. So if you're thinking long term, then the likes of Russell Martin probably isn't top of your list, because I feel like Russell Martin falls into that category which we see a lot of nowadays, of these new modern managers, young managers that want to play a specific style of football. This what is deemed as attractive football, this slow possession based focus on keeping the ball rather than risk taking kind of approach. That Russell Martin very much is part of that, where he's going to play one way only. He will not change, because in his ideology, it's not the style of player that's the issue. It's just the players aren't doing what he's asking them to do. We had that with Tim Walter at the start of this season. Has a style of play. It must be the players are the issue, not the system. To me, the best managers are able to adapt, and they will play whatever is best suited to the set of players that they've got. Yeah. What we're seeing in football is there is no adaptability in managers. There is no versatility in the tactics or the setup. They come in and say, this is the way I'm playing, and they'll do that regardless if they're playing their youth players, or if they're playing a bunch of 38-year-olds, or if they're at Man United, or if they're at Boston United. They will play that exact same way. And that, to me, is it's not great, because how easy is it then to scout against that team? You know exactly how they're going to play. You know what they're going to do, where the strengths lie, where the weaknesses are. Teams figure you out. So you have to be able to change it. And Martin, for me, is, if you like tippy-tappy, keeping 70% of the ball every game, is your man. But in terms of actually being able to grind out results against good teams, as we saw with Southampton at the start of this season, he's not going to do that. So I don't think as a long-term project you should be looking at someone like Russell Martin.
Yeah, no, bloody Leicester's bloody hierarchy. They'd bloody go for a cheap option, Sean Dykes would probably be my ideal option, if I'm honest with you, if we are to replace Ruud van Nistelrooy at the end. Obviously, there has been talk about, I think it was Footy Insider said it, but you take your Footy Insider with a pinch of salt. They was on about, could Leicester City change him at the end of the season? Could we maybe look at elsewhere and stuff like that? But I don't know. Can you ask Gant whether he thinks Ruben Selles is better than Liam Rosenior? Could we potentially take him off their hands?
I think it's too soon to judge whether or not he's better than Rosenior. I think he's shown that he's more adaptable than Rosenior. Yeah. We love Rosenior. I love Rosenior. He's got roots. He's got family ties to the city. He's played for us as a player. He's managed us. We absolutely loved him, and we really wanted it to work out for him here. His only issue is, and it's similar to what I've just said about Russell Martin, is he plays one way. He won't change it. If he last season, if he'd have just, especially in the second half of the season, all he needed to do was, in some games, just go for it more. But he plays in a style that's, I don't know, he's too afraid to lose is probably the best way to describe it. He's a great guy. He talks really well in the press. He's really good at man management. He's really good at bringing the best out of some really young players. Liam Delap had 2 failed loan spells at Stoke and Preston in the same season before he came to us, turned him into the player he is now. Jayden Philogene was okay at Cardiff, came to us, superstar. He has that ability to bring the best out of players. It's just, if you want him for a long-term project, you are, similar to Martin, going to see the same game in, game out. You're going to see possession-based safety. You're not going to be entertained. It will probably get you results, and a lot of beneficial results, and you will be very tough to beat. It's not going to be very pleasing on the eye. For me, that style of play now is outdated. Yeah. Last season, there was probably less than 5 games as a home game that I walked away from and felt genuinely entertained. We were very poor to watch at home. Phenomenal away, which is very similar to this season. Very poor at home, very good away. But the style of play now under Sellers is he knows exactly what the other team are going to do, and we set up to counter that. We don't just go, this is my way of playing, this is what we're going to do. He tweaks and changes personnel or formation or style of play. Maybe one week against a more smaller team, he'll go more direct. If he goes against a bulkier team, he'll keep it on the ground. That's what you want. You want adaptability. You want someone who's going to change and show that he understands the game. So I think the plus points for me on Sellers against Rosenior is that he has got that bit of tactical nous on him. And he also has shown Sellers, because he was at Reading, who, I mean, if this was a genuine Leicester interest in Sellers, for example. Reading had a transfer embargo, couldn't sign any players for 3 years, just suffered relegation. The only new players he could bring into the squad were youth players. So a lot of their team are academy players, and he got them into the top 6 when we poached them. So he's shown that he can stabilise a club that's in a bit of turmoil. He's really good at bringing in the youth academy players and getting them playing well. He's good at adapting to the teams and getting the results he needs to. And he doesn't need to sign players. Like, we're the first club that he's managed that he can sign players, because he's interim at Southampton. I think he took after January, so he didn't have a window.
Yeah,
so
Leicester in that relegation season, 1-0.
So he's had a fantastic January with us, and we're paying dividends. We've lost 1 game in 7, 4 unbeaten at the minute, going into a big game against Luton on Saturday. If he keeps us up, I think if we have a decent summer, we'll be top 10 next season. So Sellers and Rosenior are both really good managers. Rosenior's plus is probably he's got more championship experience, but it depends on what style of play your board's wanting and how much they're wanting to spend on a manager, I guess, because you're going to have to pay compensation to Strasbourg, and it won't be a cheap contract because it's Bluco who own Chelsea, who own Strasbourg. So how much do you want him is the question.
Well, that's something I need to bloody ask the Leicester owners in the hierarchy. What are you actually going to do to change it next season? That's what I want to know. I don't want none of this bloody crap at the end of the season of we need to review what went wrong this season again, like they did in 22-23, and the same people who were the problem were reviewing the same thing. And it was like, nothing changed, man. And then when they win the championship, and it's just like, but it papers over the cracks. The fans are going to forget about it, mate. Fans don't forget nothing. You know what I mean? When something happens, it's stuck in your mind, isn't it? Whether it's good managers, shit players, and But let's have a look at it. Leicester eyeing up Liam Rosenior then. So this is from the L'Eqipe. Obviously, the Mirror have picked it up as a potential replacement for Ruud van Nistelrooy. As he claimed that Ruud van Nistelrooy has found himself under pressure after a dismal Premier League run, left the Foxes 9 points from Premier League safety. With 9 games remaining, Ruud van Nistelrooy took charge in December after a brief spell. He's won 1 game at home to West Ham. His side have taken 4 points from 15 games since then. I mean, that's just embarrassing to say the least. Obviously the record goes on at home. 7 defeats now without scoring, which we've obviously broken the record for. According to L'Equipe in France, Leicester and Southampton both keeping tabs on Rosenior. There is said to be no immediate threat if the 2 clubs go down. Ivan Juric is obviously set to be relieved of his duties at the end of the season. I think Southampton are looking more for Danny Rawl, aren't they, at the minute? The same report indicates there is no immediate appetite to dismiss Van Nistelrooy while survival remains mathematically possible. However, it remains to be seen whether he will still be in charge at the King Power Stadium for the first game of the 25-26 season. So, Liam Rosenior this season obviously took over last year, 2024. He's got them in a good position, Strasbourg, fighting for Europe, 7th place at the minute. I think they're on 43 points. And they're doing some very good stuff, aren't they, in the French Ligue 1? What can you tell Leicester fans about Liam Rosenior regarding styles of play, tactics? Obviously, managed, let me have a look, 78 games for Hull in his 1.5 year spell. 27 wins, 28 draws, 23 defeats. He gained 109 points this time at Hull. Last season was competing for the playoffs, which you just missed out on, really, if you look at it in hindsight. If probably your players didn't get injured, the players that were key to your success last season. What can you tell us about Liam Rosenior, about style of football, bringing in the youth and that? Like, obviously, you looked at Philogene and that. Talk to me about Liam Rosenior.
Yeah, he's a very, very promising manager. I just think that he's too early in his managerial career, that he's not really learned a few lessons from. I mean, you're going to get that naivety from young upcoming managers that don't have experience in the managerial game. He's got ample experience as a player. Obviously, as a manager, he's just got to. He's got to tinker a couple of things to get to a point where he's going to be consistently good. And because I genuinely believe he'll manage at the top level at some point. He will be a Premier League manager, top end Premier League manager. Obviously, that will take some time to get there, and he needs to learn his trade, which is what he is doing. But from what we saw when he played for us, when he first came in, he took over an absolute basket case of a club that we had Shota Arveladze in charge. We were dreadful. We were losing 2 or 3-0 every week. He had a massive job.
This season,
we had the worst defense in the league in terms of conceding goals. So he had a right job in his hands to turn that around. But he came in and made us hard to beat. Like I say, he identified the problem and he changed it. He came in and we were pragmatic. We were full of endeavour. We were really hard to beat. And we went from 24th in the league to defence to 5th, I think it was, by the end of the season. So we stopped conceding goals, stayed up comfortably. I think we stayed up with about 6 or 7 games spare at the point, and he was like 23rd, I think, when he took over. And then obviously going into this season, the last season, there was a lot of promise. He had a really good transfer window. He brought in, like we say, Liam Delap, Jaden Philogene, Tyler Morton, Fabio Cavallio joined in January. Got John Michael Seri. We had Jacob Greaves already at the club. Ozan Tufan. We had Aaron Connolly as well. Had a bit of a resurgence, probably his best goal scoring spell under us in his career. So we had a really good team. It just never really amounted to anything. Injuries were a problem. Delap was injured for 6 months. That probably, if he was injured for 4 months, and we'd have had him for 2 of the months that he was injured for, we'd probably have finished in the top 6. So it's really frustrating. But it's how he brought these young players in and how he improved them, because Delap wasn't the player that we all know now and watching in the Premier League for Ipswich. He was poor. Like Preston and Stoke fans were saying he was one of the worst strikers they've ever seen play for them. And he came to us and people were like, oh, I don't understand why another championship club's taking, a gamble on him. But Rosenior brought it out of him. This is your style of play. This is what you should be doing. So in terms of man management and bringing the best out of certain players, brilliant. I think in his style of play as well is probably similar to what you saw at Enzo. It is possession first, safety first. Don't really take many risks. He just needs to maybe let the players have a bit more expressionism. Especially when like Philogene was on fire for the first 6 months of the season before his injury. We kind of just took the shackles off him. And I think he just needed to do that more with some of the players and stop being so stubborn to the style of player. Like we were saying earlier about Martin, it's just, every single game we knew exactly what we were going to do. And it got to a point where teams figured us out and they knew that if they just sat deep, we couldn't break them down because we just pass it around our own half for, the majority of the second half. So especially at home, teams were coming and they were just sitting deep and we couldn't break them down. And that's what ultimately cost us the top 6 was the home form was like mid-table. So it was, you just wanting more in terms of tinkering, change the system, go outlandish, go 3 at the back one time, just try something to try and win games. But we didn't. Same setup, same formation, same tactics, irrelevant to who he was playing against. So it's just that side of the game that he needs to work on. Have a bit more adaptability. Don't be scared to take a risk and a gamble. Stop saying, I just rather wouldn't lose. Just try and win. But I think ultimately he lost his job because it came down to, because this is a massive contentious issue across football, is why did you guys sack him? Why did you sack him? And I think the owner is just
for the roof.
Listen, like for me, I was on the fence. If we'd have kept Rosenior for another year just to see if he learned from his mistakes and progressed us, fine. If we'd have sacked him, fine. I could get either way because our owner's massive on entertainment. So he inherited a club that were getting 10,000 fans a game because the previous owners were absolutely horrendous. So a lot of us boycotted. And he had to try and lure them fans back that had been gone for years. So he wants entertainment factor. He's made ticket prices affordable. We've got amazing street food at the stadium. The match day experience is amazing. The only problem is the football on the pitch doesn't match it. So everything else is brilliant, and then we're being bored to death by what we're watching on the pitch. So I could understand where he was coming from. It was very, very harsh. Yes, obviously missing out on the playoffs was a huge issue considering the caliber of players we had, but he was responsible for making them the players they were. We didn't sign them as superstars. We made them superstars. So it was, it's like I say, it's a weird one. I'd have been happy to keep him, but I couldn't understand why he went. The issue was the replacement. Bringing in Tim Volter was a huge problem. If you're going to sack somebody like Rosenior, go and get Ruben Sellers instantly. Like we went too far left field. We went too risky, and just sort of endured with him for too long. So it makes the Rosenior sacking look worse because the replacement was just abhorrent and it just absolutely ruined us. But no, Rosenior will be a great manager, and I have no doubt that if he goes to a Leicester or a Southampton, he'll shine because he is a great guy and we all love him here.
Yeah, £2 million buyout clause. I mean, is that going to be expensive to Mr. John Rudkin or whoever's going to be sorting this deal out? I bloody hope not. Liam Rosenior, you know, I was quite amazed with Hull, how well they played last season. Obviously, I watched them against Leicester, very transparent on the ball, quite good in attack. Quite a lot of pace with Philogene, Carvalho's, them types of players, you know, a bit more hard to beat. Obviously, we've seen that when we came to Hull in the second half of the season, and obviously it ended up a draw. You know, I just think with Rosenior, it were always the case, his substitutions, his timings and that always let him down, you know, and I seen it at the first game of the season we played you. 1-0 you lot. And yeah, you know, he managed to grind a result out against the league favourites at the time, you know. We was on a good run, and then Hull City come. They sit quite deep against Leicester. I think he sat in like a block of bloody 4 or whatever it was on the halfway line. Couldn't get bloody past. And that's the frustrating part of it when you're watching a team in it and you're seeing them defend. You want to see them get out more, a bit more influence, a bit more express yourselves. But sometimes you've got to do it, haven't you, against these top sides in the league. You've got to somehow find a way of finding results. And I think Rosenior did that. So why was he sacked, Ant? I mean, why did Hull decide to part with Liam Rosenior?
I think it literally, we can speculate all day long. I think it comes down to the fact that we invested massively in January for him. I think we found ourselves in a position because at the start of the season, the top 6 wasn't the aim. The aim was mid-table, maybe have a flirt with the top 6, but definitely not a real possibility. And we got ourselves into the top 6 when it was in December. I think what's happened is he signed a new deal, and I think the discussion in the deal was, I think the owners turned to him and said, "We're in a really good position. I've got 2 things to ask you. One, can we make the football a bit more entertaining?" And I think Rosenior's turned around and gone, "Well, I can't because I need different players, or I need these certain players." And the owner's gone, "Right, who do you want?" And he's gone, "Right, I need these." And he's just gone out and got them. We went and got Ryan Giles. We went and got Anis Arori. We went and got Fabio Carvalho. We had a really good January transfer window. And they were there. I mean, Carvalho especially will have been a big payout for wages and the loan fee and things like that, because no one like that should be dropping to the Championship. So
we were interested in at the time.
Yeah, he picked us above like Leeds and Leicester and players like that. So teams like that. So we must have compensated them well. And the style of play didn't change, so we didn't get more entertaining. We got a better caliber of players, but it didn't improve on the pitch. We missed out on the top 6, and we finished the season in horrendous form. We only won 3 of the last 13. And it was really weird because when we won the 3 away games in a week, we went and beat Huddersfield, Rotherham, and Southampton all in the same week. And when we beat Southampton at their place, I thought, we'll do this. I thought, that's it, we're top 6, because that was a great performance. There was a video on social media of him doing the speech in the changing room afterwards. I thought, this is it. We're on a roll. And then from that point, we only won 3 games from the rest of the season. And it was because teams knew how to set up against us and just sat deep and frustrated us. And he wouldn't change and tinker to try and find a new way of winning. We just were watching the same stuff week in, week out. He also had some like strange commitments to playing certain players that weren't very good. Ryan Alsop was the worst goalkeeper in the league, played week in, week out. We had Ivor Panda, who's probably been our player of the season this year in goal, sat on the bench and he didn't play. And the justification for it is Alsop can pass the ball. Brilliant. He's a goalkeeper. He needs to stop shots from going in the goal. That's his job. Like, if you want someone who can pass in goal, put a midfielder in there. Seri would be great at it. But, he persisted with Alsop, who cost us loads of points. We missed out by 3 points for the top 6. So, if we'd have played Panda in maybe 10 of those games, we would have probably not lost those points. So, yeah, it's a frustrating one. I think it was just a bit, our owner's too ambitious and too, he's almost like a fan. Like, you want to provide entertainment for your club and your fan base, and he's a bit too eccentric and a bit too, right, I'm going to do this right now kind of owner. And he maybe regrets it in hindsight, and the frustration, because we were all so frustrated when we missed out on the top 6. But it sounds like there were maybe a bit of falling out as well behind the scenes, in terms of, like, I think the owner was suggesting to him, like, why aren't you dropping these players like Alsop that are playing bad? And Rosenior didn't take well to that. But he's really, it was his first proper job in management, so it's harsh, but it's football. That's what modern day football is now, and the demands for success.
So looking at Leicester's squad, then obviously we've got like Will Alves out on loan, haven't we, at Cardiff? You've got Ben Nelson, who's on loan at Oxford at the minute, who you would have watched this season in the Championship. Are they looking at Leicester's squad? You've got the Fatawoos, you've obviously got the experienced header Jamie Vardy, and players like that, Harry Winks. You've got Michael Golding, who's in the under-23s at the minute. Which players do you think would be quite influenced under Liam Rosenior if Leicester do decide to part with Van Nistelrooy and Rosenior comes in?
Well, if you can manage to bring in a striker of Delap's quality who can, drop deep and carry the ball forward himself and be the powerhouse that he is, then obviously you'd see that from whoever that was. But I think your most exciting prospects will probably be, like you said, your Golding in midfield. I know he's a very promising midfielder who sits in that number 6 sort of deep line playmaker. If he can adopt the John Michael Seri role that we had here, you'll probably see him come on leaps and bounds. If he gives Fatu the kind of freedom he gave Philogene for the first 6 months, you'll see an electric winger who just wants to cut inside and score goals constantly. Encourage him to take on players rather than pass the ball, kind of thing. So yeah, he is a manager who likes to encourage his players. Like I say, he talks so well. If you listen to him on a radio, you'd want to run through a wall for him. Like he talks really well. It's just, and then when it translates onto the pitch, it's brilliant. When you see these young players changing, adapting, and improving, it is really good. It's just tactically is his weakness, but in terms of man management, he's absolutely brilliant. So if you can keep hold of some of these young, promising players, with a little mixture of your Championship experience as well, you'll be fine under Rosenior if obviously he did come over.
I think the way you talk about that, when you said about he talks well in press conferences, it reminds me a bit like Steve Cooper. Steve Cooper made him look like prime Barcelona in a press conference, and you'd be shopping at Waitrose at that point. You'd be at the I's Dead, probably at Harrods, and then you'd all of a sudden you'd watch the football, and it was absolutely abysmal. And it won't the voice that it actually put into it, to the plan to make them look like prime Barcelona, to then go on the pitch in the game, and you're thinking, this ain't what he said. This ain't the plan, is it? And what he's making them look like they should be playing, and then you're looking at making them bloody shopping at bloody Poundland, this Poundland football compared to how he's made them shopping at bloody Harwich. Do you know what I mean? It's a difference with managers. Some speak a very good game, but they can't translate it on a football pitch. I mean, with Rosenior, he did that, and he translated the way he wanted to play on, and then what he'd do in training. Steve Cooper just one-dimensional low block football and this rip. But I think the likes of Ben Nelson would be good, like you say, Fatawu. I don't know if Jamie Vardy's going to be here for another year. I know his contract runs out at the end. I know how much you lot love Jamie Vardy at Hull City. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, this team needs a massive shake-up. I think if Rosenior did come in, he'd get rid of quite a lot of this squad because a lot of the squad's just not good enough at all, So I think he'd bring in his own players, which I think every manager needs, don't they? They need backing. Van Nistelrooy hasn't been backed. I think Steve Cooper wasted about £80 million of the money bringing in Jordan Ayew and decalled over Reed and Oliver Skip for £25 million, which you wouldn't believe, You'd think it's a bloody bargain in the summer, that sort of price. But we all know he's a bang average championship midfielder who I think we'd struggle to sell for that price in the January summer transfer window coming up. Probably get 25p for him. But no, Rosenior seems every manager has his pros and cons. But what are his pros and cons in the Championship?
He's spent a lot of time in the Championship as a player. He's spent a year and a half in the Championship as a manager, so he knows the league. You're not bringing in someone who's a total gamble because he's been there and done that. I don't know. The lap was very poor, and he made him into a very good player. But I think Daka might be too far gone beyond that point. The potential's there, maybe. But he's got a Championship experience. He's really good at bringing in young players and bringing them to the best of their ability. The style of play, if you're into possession based. Spend a lot of the ball in your own half kind of play, you'll enjoy it. Like that would be a pro for you. He's very good. He's very well connected in the game and well respected from other clubs and players. He is a lure factor for signings. So if you're in for a player and you're in competition with other clubs, the fact that Rosenior is your manager puts you above the vast majority of them because players want to play for him. That's how we could recruit the kind of players that we did last season, because he is that lure factor to some clubs because he is so well thought of in the game that players want to play for him and clubs want to send their best young players out to him to develop them because they trust him. So that is a positive. Like in the transfer market, you could get some decent deals from that respect.
Yeah.
I think the cons are, he's very, this is my way of playing and that's what I'm going to stick to it. Would I take Wout fast? I would not in this current team. No, not from what I've seen of Wout fast. I would take any of the Leicester back four this season from what I've seen. But as a Championship, we'll have a look at him next season, see how he does. If he's still there, we'll have a look. But so his cons, it's very much one way of playing. Just as it was a pro, it could be a con if you're not into that possession, safety first kind of style of play. That would be a con for you. He refuses to maybe change players when he should do, and his substitutions can be a bit iffy. But I put all of the cons down to the fact that he's a young manager and it's just naivety. And these are things that he will learn the more he gets on with his managerial career. To me, he's going to get to a point where he realizes maybe have a way of playing, but be adaptable to it and have a bit of wiggle room just for who you're playing against, just to be able to mix it up a bit and get the most points possible rather than just saying, I want to be known for playing this way. Just try and win games and get the most points. That's what it used to be. But as in terms of building if you were looking for a manager to have for 3, 4, 5 years, to do a rebuild, to have a bit of stability that you could trust, you would do much worse than Rosenior. He is a safe pair of hands if you want him to just sort of start from scratch and go again. And I think that by the end of those, that first era of the project, after the first 3 or 4 years, he will be a much better manager and you'll be in a much better position for it. It's just whether or not your board gives him the time needed to do that. And do they have the means to back him in the transfer market to do that? They're going to be potential blockades to him coming, especially if Southampton come in for him, because they can say, well, we've got money to spend. Leicester don't. So it comes down to how do you lure him in and can you keep him there for a long time?
Yeah, Leicester's board's very much like that. They'll speak a good game. They'll say, we'll give you this, this, and this. And as soon as you've signed that contract, they'll go back on what they've said. It's like, Van Nistelrooy, we'll back you in January, give you money to spend. I didn't think it was bloody going to be £3 million on bloody Koulibaly, for God's sake, but I thought we'd have a lot more to spend than that. But this is what the board seems to be. They seem to be very much built on unperformed promises. you know, what they've made to these managers. And this is where you see straight through as a fan, but then managers want to manage, don't they, at the highest level, you know. They'd bring him in next season maybe, or whoever it is. If Van Nistelrooy is to depart Leicester, or we do decide to change, then it's going to be getting the right squad, the right formula, the right style of football. Bring that entertainment factor back to Leicester City, because at the minute it's just dull. It just like it's raining and it's pouring every day at bloody Leicester, you know, and it don't seem to be getting any better. And you know, whatever happens with the sanctions of the EFL is another show to be bloody discussed. But and thanks for coming on, appreciate it. Before I let you go, let everybody know where they can find you and what you do regarding Hull City.
Yeah, so the only thing I do myself is I've got a TikTok, which is basically just a handle that's on. You can see that there at the bottom of my screen. I just do Hull City videos, just talk my mind. I don't beat about the bush. I am as I am. You can find me on TikTok there, and then and then I'm also part of the Hull and Back podcast, as Jack's mentioned already, which is on YouTube and all your usual audio providers. So if you like to listen to other fans either rant about defeats or just want to have a little bit of vented interest into another club and what's going on there, we're always worth a follow and a listen. So any followers, like, subscribes, anything, listens, much appreciated. But cheers for having me on, Jack. Always a pleasure.
Appreciate it, Ant. And yeah, we'll see you next season.
Hopefully, yes.
See you soon.
See you in a bit, mate.
That was Ant from the Hull and Back podcast. Might bloody French there, but yeah, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Give the lowdown on bloody Liam Rosenior. As Leicester are high up, Liam Rosenior, and so the bloody Southampton. But it's going to be seen now with these next 9 games, see what happens. Will Ruud be here at the end of the season? Obviously, it's been quite vocal this season, hasn't it, with if he will be here, will he not? Who knows? But yeah, guys, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't subscribed already. Please get down and do so. See you Wednesday night, Jack. Yeah, I'll be at Man City away. The return of the Premier League. I mean, what's happened? Oh, God. My laptop's crashed. No. But no, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll have a match day vlog out next week. Match preview as well for Man City. I'll be joined by Big Steve on Monday. Sorry if that crashed it. I don't know what bloody happened. The internet bloody went. Yeah, bloody froze. Sorry. But yeah, thanks for watching. We'll be live tomorrow night for this, the Premier League Champions 15-16. We'll be live with Mr. Leicester City himself, Rob Tanner from The Athletic. He'll be giving me, we'll be taking a trip down memory lane to remember the 15-16 season. And this show should be a cracker and something positive to talk about. But go and check out last night's show, the 14-15 Great Escape. Go and check that out as well. So yeah, thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow night. And up the Foxes. Catch you soon. Hi all, thank you for watching The Final Whistle. If you enjoy all our content, please remember to smash a like, share and subscribe to the channel.